us free. Give us free.
Have you heard the story of how Amistad was the movie was thought of?
No.
So there was this school. Man, I'm gonna get this wrong. Probably it's somewhere in California. There's a black school that got in trouble because they went to a high school field trip to go see Schindler's List.
Mm. If you don't know, Schindler's List is a German Jewish wartime World War II movie.
Yeah, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And they were laughing during the movie at various things, mostly because they were probably uncomfortable, and some of it was really, really it was aggressively violent. It was you know. And there was one more where they were like talking. They were just laughing. Let me rephrase. They were talking a lot because they were high school kids. And then at one point during one of the violent scenes, there was like an outburst of laughter because one person said something. And everyone started laughing. And they were asked to leave the theater. And then it became national news that these black kids were thrown out of this movie theater in California for laughing during. It was really boiled down to, which I just did it myself, but it was the headlines boiled down to like black kids laughed during Schindler's List, thrown out of school, and it ended up being an issue so big that the governor of California and Steven Spielberg himself came to the school to have a conversation about it because these black kids were really being villainized as if they just went to Amistad and just started laughing, and they were being painted as what did I say?
Amistad.
Oh yeah, sorry, Schindler's List, and laughing as painted as anti-Semitic. And then in the middle of the assembly, the kids had actually been having a lot of talks with each other and to their families and to other community leaders, and then one of the kids said to Steven Spielberg something along the lines of, "Well, have you ever Why are you only telling this story? Have you ever told any stories of any other? Have you told the story of the Black genocide?" And then
I didn't know Steven Spielberg made.
He directed Amistad, and then he said, maybe one day I will. And then a few years later, Amistad was released.
Amistad. We never watched Amistad in school. We talked about it, but we never watched a movie. And this was in middle school that we had like a whole Amistad unit. But instead, do you know what movie we did focus on though? We watched because my middle school teacher, my 7th grade English teacher, Miss Negri, was obsessed with this film. She had all the models in her room, posters, everything. She was obsessed. Titanic. And we had, when I tell you, an extensive part of our curriculum was about the fucking Titanic.
Did you not like that?
No, but I feel like there were other things we could have focused on, other books that were more important than the fucking Titanic.
You said like Titanic's a book.
I think there is a book about it, isn't there?
Yeah, but the Titanic's not, like, I wouldn't say the Titanic is a book. I would say the Titanic is a happening. Like, it was a thing.
But it was the reading. We concentrated on reading the Titanic and talking about it and dissecting this phenomenon of the Titanic and what it meant to the world. I'm like, I just feel like for 7th graders, there were other things that we could have focused on that were more important, especially for our black and brown asses in Marine Park Middle School, the third worst middle school in New York State.
And then you graduated and it became number 4. I'm just kidding. When I was in 7th grade, we read like 2 or 3 books a year. I remember every year of school, I think we read at least 2 or 3 books a year. But the only book I remember reading in the 7th grade was The Giver.
We didn't read that.
The Giver is a great book. I read it again as an adult, and I want to say it still stands the test of time. Well, I was in my 20s, so this was like probably over 15 years ago that I read this book. But the last time it still gave. No pun intended. But The Giver is a very good book. Very good. The movie got very bad reviews.
I'm trying to untrain my mind because as I've said many times, I have a lot of trauma around reading because of my speech impediment. So I'm trying to untrain my mind with that.
Listen to books.
But there's a different, yes, I listen to books, but there's a different thing about opening a page and like really, when you're reading the information, receiving it a different way because like also you're just engaging different senses like when you're reading a book. So
To you.
I want to start reading again, and I'm trying to untrain my mind. So I'm slowly dipping my toe back into the reading of fantasy, because reading is I acknowledge how fun.
Fundamental.
Yeah, I acknowledge how fun also reading can be, but it's just like trying to get my mind around the trauma, which I guess it's positive trauma, honestly.
Honey, when they puts the dumb and fundamental.
Badu, 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 Badu. Wait, so Bob and I Bob and I were talking about how everyone made up this fucking multiverse of madness. How Beyonce repeated Erykah Badu's name over and over in the Queen's remix section of "Break My Soul" because of the stuff with Lizzo. Like the internet, when I say the internet made this story and ran with it, oh, like yeah, Beyonce doesn't fuck with Lizzo no more. I was like, where do people even get?
So
I mean, it is a coincidence that it
out.
happened on the same time. Yeah. It happened around the same time.
Tina Knowles came out and was like, that's not a thing. I'm really paraphrasing what Tina Knowles said. It was not like, but Tina Knowles was essentially like, oh, I don't know if that's the full story, basically. And then, of course, so now she said it again. And then one of the night she said it with emphasis, honey. She's like, Badu Lizzo.
Yeah, so it was, and then, but the shade with Erykah Badu was that Erykah Badu, because Beyonce has that big hat that she wears in the formation section, and Erykah Badu, I think, posted a picture or commented, be like, "Oh, so I see everybody wearing big hats now." Like,
no, I think she said, "I'm everyone's fashion icon now," or something like that.
Yeah, and
everyone's stylist.
I'm everyone's stylist. But also, we don't know that was she would. Beyonce is just out here saying stuff in fun ways. I don't think it was to Badu. I think there was one thing Beyonce said on tour that could be pointed back at one person, which is toward
her mom,
The Weeknd, and Donald Glover, when she kind of made a statement about the series The Hive.
Oh, she did? What did she say? I didn't see that. What did she say?
It was so indirect. She was like, yeah, we are that hive, or something like that. It was something along those lines. It was like the very first show.
I watched the first episode of Swarm, and Swarm.
Sorry, that's what I meant, Swarm.
Yeah, I saw the first episode, and it looks like a really good series. I love that actress. I love her. Her interviews are so good. She just did an interview about, she was in her interview, and she was talking for Transformers. She's talking about how she does ASL and why she learned American Sign Language. And she's so charming and she's so gorgeous. And I watched the first episode. It looks really good, but I haven't watched because I didn't realize it was like going to be a horror. And I just don't think I wasn't in a horror space. You know what I mean?
Boo!
What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? You fucking fuck. What's wrong with you?
What did you say?
You're sick. You need to be hospitalized.
I haven't watched Swarm. Oh my god, that was so good. I really enjoyed that. Woo! I was inspired. I was inspired. I have a lot of friends who know ASL. People in my life. Jacob knows sign language. I mean, before you all run to Jacob, Jacob isn't like fluent, but he knows it pretty well. But if you run to Jacob in the street and start doing sign language, it might be a little overwhelming. So don't be like, Bob said you was gonna be fluent.
I want to learn.
My friend Taylor knows sign language. My friend Rose Montoya is completely fluent in sign language.
Do you know ASL?
Wait,
no.
Taylor, stylist Taylor or
Taylor
like
Kennedy.
house carpenter Taylor?
Taylor Kennedy? I don't know who that is. Do I know Taylor Kennedy?
Remember, I was at his house that one time, and in his hands, you're like, whose hands are those?
Atlanta. Yeah. Do you know ASL?
I know a few things in ASL. I can say table. I can say computer. I can say wear. I can say skin.
It's so interesting to me that we don't have like like every country has their own. Obviously, we know this, but it's so crazy to me that we didn't like develop like for sign language. That seems like we should be able to develop like a universal one, so it's like a little easier. But maybe there's a lot of crossover.
That would be like developing a universal language.
I guess
like spoken. That'd be like why don't we have a universal spoken language?
This is true. Because at my show here, we had a British sign language, a BSL. And on the thing, they were like, today we're going to have BSL. And I'm like, what the fuck is BSL? My dumb
Black
ass.
sign language.
I know. Not black.
Yes, it's black sign language.
Anyway.
Like it's like in black sign language, like this means something different than when white people go.
I mean, there is a black sign language. It's the same as AAVE, but for sign language.
Work. Well, anyway, it was the British Sign Language interpreter we had in my show. And then
You know,
I was thinking
AISL is also another thing.
AI,
American Italian Sign Language.
oh my God. Anyway, I don't even know what I was fucking talking about. I'm so confused what the fuck I was saying.
You were at a show. They had a British sign language.
Oh yes, we had a British Sign Language interpreter, and she was a white woman, and then I say the N word in my act a few times, and then so like Patty didn't want to, obviously because Patty's like trying to like ask for me, and he's like, so in this show, Monet says words that she can say.
Not Patty little Mississippi ass. Monet say nigga. And Patty, I don't know. Patty has a slight Southern accent. I would say more slight than mine, but it's very slight. Like I have a slight Southern accent.
I hear it in you. I don't hear it in Patty. I do not hear Patty's Southern. I don't hear that.
You hear a Southern accent in me?
Yes, I do. I've told you this. We talked about this on the podcast before. I do.
And I hear a Caribbean accent in you.
Okay, I'm not finding that.
Down, do something now.
What the fuck does that even mean?
You know exactly what it means. Stop acting like you don't know what it means.
From the South. Anyway.
You know what bamba down, badusa down means. Stop acting like you don't know what that means. You literally know what it means.
Bam bam beatum bam bam.
Can you make that song on your album? Bamba down, badusa down.
Oh,
bamba down, badusa down. Bamba down, badusa down. Throw it round when you come to my town. Hey, bamba down, badusa down. That's honestly kind of slaps.
Does it? So I think I just want to get our guest in here because I just love talking to her. She's so funny, and I'm watching her little square and seeing how her hair is just blowing. Peppermint always has just a natural breeze just blowing in her
a natural plugged in breeze. You act like she's Storm from X-Men. The four winds from the southern seas and the Caspian.
So let's take a break, and we're gonna.
I know Monet doesn't own a fan. See, I think Monet just blown away because Monet forgot that people own fans.
It's crazy to me. People don't own fans anymore.
No, Monet, people do own. You were the one saying no one owns a fan, and me and Mateo was like, everyone has a fan.
Do you have a fan?
Yes, I have a fan. Everyone has.
I ain't never seen that fan.
Everyone has fans. Monet was on the pod literally like, don't nobody have fans. I was like, Monet,
what is this, 1999? Nobody has fans anymore.
We all have fans. Everyone on this call has a fan except you.
Bob, I have never seen you with a fan in your house.
That's not true.
In your new house? When do you have a fan?
I've had the same fan from my old house and the home before that. It keeps traveling with me. I don't throw it away and get a new fan every time I move. I probably have 3 fans in this house.
Next time I walk to your house, plug that shit up, and I want the fan to greet me at the front door. If this mystical, magical fan literally like exists somewhere, I want to see.
It'll be there with the Roomba. We'll talk about the Roomba after this break. Monet, talk that shit now.
How's the fan now?
Shit now?
Is the fan okay, Jacob?
You just Instacarted those 2 fans over. Don't try to pull nothing. You Instacarted that shit over.
Yeah, talk that shit now, honey.
Do you remember the 90s?
Everyone, comment your fan emojis. Fan emojis below. I'm moving on from purses. I'm now the fan girl.
You remember the 90s when people had boom boxes? I cannot imagine if I had to like carry a boom box. Again, I play music everywhere. When I go on the road, I have my wireless speaker. I blast music when I get my makeup ready. I'm always listening.
Which I asked Monet to not do when we're in the when we're together in the room. It's too much. When we're in
the same room together, I have never blasted music.
I said I asked.
But it never.
And you listen. Yeah, you know better.
Anyway.
Listen, can we please welcome our wonderful guest, our sister. She is a true sibling of the pod. She is one of y'all's most she's one of the most beloved members of the Sibling Rivalry family.
Multiverse.
And she is one of my oldest New York City friends, for sure. I remember the first time I saw Pep out of a gig. And I just met her a few days ago. No, Pep hosted the first New York City nightlife show I ever went to. And I remember the first time I ever saw Pep out of drag. was at Wigs, not Wigs and Plus. It was at Orange
Beauty.
You remember what's that store on 125? Is it Orange Beauty? Me and Frosty Flakes were on the stairs, and then I just heard this very familiar voice behind me go, "Bitches, you are bitches. Both of you are bitches." And I turned around, I was like, "Oh my god!" And Pep was wearing some overalls. I remember you wearing some overalls
today.
And she was this is in Pep's in the blonde in her Eve phase when she had the blonde the blonde hair.
Blonde.
I would like to welcome to the podcast the co-host and co-founder of my other podcast, Town Hall, a Black Queer Podcast. Please welcome to Sibling Rivalry, a true sibling, our true sister. Welcome, Peppermint.
Hey, y'all. Hi.
So,
hi, Pep.
Hey,
brother
girl.
from another mother,
Peppermint, she's like one in a million.
If brother from another mother means we have the same mom,
Sister from another mister,
and sister from another mister means we have the same dad.
Baby daddy is each playing child support.
So Peppermint, if you all don't know, Peppermint and I have a podcast called Town Hall, a Black Queer Podcast, which we are incredibly proud of.
Only because Peppermint and my podcast, we couldn't find the time, so we were like, oh yeah, I was like, Pep, you should probably do the one with Bob, but she wanted to do one with me first.
Pep ironically couldn't find time to hang out with you. Pep ironically was like, I'm busy that day. Oops.
Y'all,
I'm just saying.
Don't believe that.
I know what's up.
Y'all, don't come on. Hey.
All the rumors are false. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be interesting if I did have a podcast, another podcast with Monet? Then we'd all have podcasts with each other in different situations.
We still can. Pep, you and I could do a music podcast. Like, I feel like we need to have like a music podcast where we talk about like new music that's come out for new people and like just dissect it, because we both love R&B. We both R&B girlies. Bob swears he's an R&B girly. He's not.
I have never claimed to be an R&B. I have never once been like I'm an R&B. I've never even said I love R&B.
You intimated that you are. When I went talking about R&B.
I've said I like R&B, but I've never been like I'm an R&B girly.
I listen to Hall, a Black Queer Podcast comes out.
a lot less us arguing. Anyone who knows me knows that my brand of music, I love girl rap. I love listening to girl rap. GGT rap is really my thing. But I've never been like, you know what I'm deep into? Tank. I love me some fucking Tyrese. I can't stop listening to Tyrese.
Okay, you say you old without saying you old. Not Tyrese and Tank. What?
So tell me about this podcast. What's this Town Hall podcast all about?
So Town Hall is where we explore themes on Black queerness through poetry, through art, through a varying depth of hilarity. But what's great about Town Hall is it's not just me and Pep talking. We also bring in each episode. We bring in at least 3 other people and 3 other perspectives where they get to tell their stories to you. Mm-hmm. It is a community-based podcast, so it's not just me and Pep sharing our thoughts back and forth. We allow people to come on. We have some amazing producers who gather some really, really, really good stories based on themes.
And it's not necessarily like it's not a hot topics show. We talk about themes and things that have historically, we talk about relevant issues, but we are able to connect them to like things that have historically affected or influenced or inspired the queer Black community. And so we're able to bring people on and they share their own stories, they share their own experiences, and we talk with those people, and we also comment sometimes and give our own opinions about some things. It gets really, really interesting, and we're celebrating our 2nd season. Congratulations, Bob. And we just launched our 2nd season. Thank you. And we, our first 2 episodes, we went in, honey. We went in on interracial dating. We went in, then after that, if you didn't get enough, then we went in on, and Jacob would love this, race.
And also the history. We talk about the history of drag. If you want, you can listen to it anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's also available in video form over on my YouTube page. And each episode has a video that goes along with it. Each episode has a full video that goes along with it.
Wait, it wasn't the 80s. It was the 80s with the boomboxes on the shoulder, not the 90s.
Not the 90s?
90s people definitely. I'm not saying nobody had a boombox in the 90s, but I'm saying like people carried around those speakers because the like Walkman and CD Walkman were not like as widespread as they were in the 90s. In the 90s, like people had a lot of portable stuff. People used boom boxes, of course, like,
Right.
but I think car stereos became more popular in the 90s. And instead, if you wanted the whole neighborhood to hear your music, you just play it from your car in the mid to late 90s. In the 80s, it was like, they called it a ghetto blaster. And you would use your ghetto blaster and carry it around so that everybody can hear you.
That's actually my affectionate name for Bob. My ghetto blaster.
Ghetto blaster. That's your
I
screen
used to
name.
be obsessed with the character. I used to be obsessed with the character Radio Raheem.
And Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing. Radio Raheem was a guy who would just like cheer up the neighborhood with his music. I guess I could say spoiler alert, even though the movie is literally like over 30 years old at this point. But Radio Raheem has an untimely demise at the hands of the authorities.
I review the movie.
Is it the cops?
Did I review with you? No. Who did I review?
No, we did Poetic Justice.
Okay, I reviewed the movie in my Pep Talks summer Black movie season.
Pep,
series.
don't the cops shoot Radio Raheem? It's the cops, right?
The cops strangle him.
Strangle him. That's what it is. Yeah.
Did you
watch that the Spike Lee movie that they made into a series on Netflix? She's
Gotta Have It.
Did you watch it?
I didn't watch this. I haven't watched the series.
It's really good. I'm really mad they cut it off. That lead, she was so good. I'm surprised.
What do you mean they cut it off?
Like
it
was only 2 seasons. They didn't renew for a third.
Oh.
But she was so good, and it was so. I really enjoyed the series, and I thought it was gonna be like have like a long life, but it didn't.
2 seasons is not bad in the world of television and film.
These days.
Yeah, these days. First of all, a pilot is wild. If you get your show taken to a pilot, my show, I'm not on the show anymore, but I was once on a show called We're Here. We did 3 seasons together. Now they're doing and now they're doing a 4th season with Jada Essence Hall, Sasha Velour, and Priyanka. And people are like, maybe only, even if the show had only got 3 seasons, 4 seasons is wild.
Today, yeah.
4 seasons is wild. I mean, Breaking Bad was only 5 seasons.
Like, well, if the show's Emmy nominated, then I'd say that's a better marker than
Emmy winning.
Emmy nominated and winning, multiple Emmy nominated.
We actually only got 1 Emmy. It's actually we actually only got 1 Emmy nomination.
Okay,
we have 2 Emmy wins, which is kind of weird because there's a thing called jury votes. So we were nominated in our first year, and we were never nominated again. But then we won 2 Emmys the second year, even though we weren't nominated.
Okay, that's interesting. Well,
yeah,
but I think that's a really good sign, even past like how many seasons you have. Sometimes the Emmys, what gets the second season, the third season happening.
Is the Emmy wins.
That is true.
Yeah.
We lost our first year to Cheer, and then Untucked won that same
and then they
award
had a scandal.
that we were nominated. They had a scandal, and then Untucked won that same award. The year we skipped out a year on the Emmys because of the Ponder replay. But the weird thing to me is like, this is no shade to Untucked. Someone who's been on Untucked and someone who's been on We're Here is just a.
It's not the same kind of situation.
We're Here is just a.
And what is the category?
They don't even gather. They don't even gather to do Untucked. Untucked is literally like the behind the scenes, like, of something already happening. Just people sitting in the break room. Literally, people sitting in a break room.
It's like unstructured
reality program. Unstructured reality.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and I get, but I feel like, yes, I understand how We're Here is unstructured. But I feel like there is a lot of structure to it in the same way. I feel like y'all should not be in the same category.
There's a format.
It's because it's not competitive, and it's not competitive, and it's not Real Housewives.
It's just people sitting around, drinking drinks, taking off their wigs.
Right.
Exactly. So if it was like Watch Out for the Big Girls, which is like a competitive show, which won, or if it's like RuPaul's Drag Race, which is a competitive show that won, or if it's like then those are competition reality programs, and then you have Unstructured, which is just like, we're in town doing this stuff, let's just see what happens.
I loved Watch Out for the Big Girl season 1. I thought it was such a good show. I was addicted. I watched the whole season in like
hot take
in 2 days. It was a good show. But I mean, are we going to talk about it? Are we going to talk about it or no?
fresh out the oven.
Are we going to talk about it or no?
Yeah, we can talk
We can
about
talk
it.
about it.
Again, so when the accusations first came out, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then Lizzo responded. I was like, this is crazy. And now the girls gave the three or the two women and their lawyer, they had their takes talking about it. And I was like, this is very interesting. Like what it sounds like to me, and again, I'm not there, I don't know. What it sounds like to me is that, yes, there were some indiscretions that happened that maybe Lizzo being someone in a position of power, maybe she should not have whatever.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it just sounds like these people are disgruntled because they got fired from their job.
Can I say something real quick? Just a quick Bob the Drag Queen side tangent, which someone in the comments is going to hate.
Yeah.
I don't think I know how to pronounce the word Layer.
Layer,
How do you
bitch.
pronounce that word?
Layer.
No, Law. Sorry, Lawyer.
Lawyer.
I don't think I know how to pronounce.
Lawyer.
It's lawyer.
Lawyer.
Not lawyer.
Lawyer.
I say lawyer. It's a lawyer.
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 Yeah, lawyer.
Lawyer.
Law.
Yeah, not
It's a
lawyer.
lawyer.
You're like
Okay.
a lawyer. Maybe that's
But
maybe
it
that's the
sounds like
accent
you're
you
saying
were
liar
discussing
with a bad British accent now.
Liar.
earlier.
He's a liar.
And then
Well, my cousin a lawyer.
and then they had
My
this,
cousin is a
and they
lawyer.
had this,
It
like,
sounds
this
like you're calling your cousin a liar.
this lawyer on TikTok broke it down and like she read like
On
the
how to say
actual
it?
thing. Yeah, like she read she read the suit and she was saying, yeah, like these girls are
I think she's a patron, by the way. I think she's a
How to say
patron.
lawyer. I was
Who,
like,
Lizzo?
that's not-
No, that lawyer.
Is she?
I think that lawyer is a patron.
Yeah, she broke it
Because I
down,
did this-
and she's basically like, "These bitches is." She didn't say this, but she's like, "These bitches is wildin'. Lizzo is not in the wrong here." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't see how she is." But I'm not a lawyer. I don't fucking know. What am I?
So whenever you are on in a position of power on a TV show, in my experience anyway, at the beginning of the season, you have to have this sexual harassment training. Or not sexual harassment, workplace harassment. And it doesn't just involve sexual. You have to have a workplace harassment training. And I realized in that training that a lot of things can be considered workplace harassment. I found out that it is workplace harassment if telling dirty jokes is part of the job, which for my line of work, it literally is. If telling dirty jokes is part of the job and one of my employees is very Christian and I don't include them on the writing of the dirty jokes, that is also a form of workplace harassment or discrimination. Yes, if I'm like, well, Monet, I know you're very, very religious, so we just didn't ask you. So we're going to do the dirty joke segment alone, and then we'll get back to you when we do like the jokes that aren't dirty. That is considered workplace discrimination.
I can't.
Okay.
Which...
I guess if you had
that
given
makes
her the
sense.
option, maybe it wouldn't have been considered workplace discrimination.
But then they were saying, and some lawyer is going to tell me that I misremember, which is probably true. Laws, obviously, people study a very long time to understand law. But then even giving them the option, especially puts them in an awkward position, where they now they could feel pressured to either participate or not participate. Because of the nature of the job, if I'm like, because of your religious beliefs, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, so I'm not going to have you do the dirty joke segment of my show.
Okay,
right. Well, I mean, it's also the thing too. Like, this is like for example, when we had the tour with the Juicies and stuff, and they're always like, "Y'all, Bob, Monet, let's go out." I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm gonna stay here." Like a part of me just does not feel comfortable just going out to a club and stuff with people.
Can you tell me who the Juicies are?
Oh, the Juicies are the dancers of the house of Juicy Couture, and they were our dancers on Sibling Rivalry.
Who competed on, specifically the ones who competed on Legendary?
Yeah, the ones, well, besides with Lolita was not, but everyone else who was on Legendary. And
so DYU, Day, Kamaya, and
her name has changed. It's not Brooklyn anymore. She does not go by Brooklyn. She doesn't go by Brooklyn anymore. I forget their name. I forget her name. And then so like,
well, formerly Brooklyn the brand.
Yeah, I would always be like, nah, I'm okay, guys. I'm gonna stay here and hang out. You know what I mean? Because I just there's a part of that to me just does not feel appropriate to be hanging out in the club drinking with the dancers.
People you work with. It's not.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel good.
It never. Something always goes south for sure. Always when you go out drinking, either y'all are going to end up having sex or y'all going to end up fighting, or somebody's going to end up being offended. You know, that just always happens with alcohol. Yeah. And
I used to go to the strip club with the Work the World girls. We'd all get together and go. Well, not always, but we went to a few we went to Stag together, and we went to Swing and Richards together. R.I.P. Swing and Richards. We went to Swing and Richards together, which is where I had. Yeah,
girl, it closed down last year.
One of the things we lost in the fire, girl. Yeah. And I really, which when I had one of my favorite Violet Chachki moments that I talk about all the time, and I will retell the story if you haven't. It is Violet Chachki.
Was that when she still lived in Atlanta?
No, we were all on tour together. So me and Violet sat down and we were like, if you want a strippers to come to you, you just lay out your money and they will just like walk over to the money, right? So me and Violet laid out all this money, and this guy walked over and he started dancing, and then he leaned down and he was like, I'm straight. And then Violet leaned back, scooped up all of her money, put it in one little stack, and said, "Not my gay dollars," and got up and walked away. That was one of the most iconic, and I followed too. I said, "And not mine either."
Well, it's such a mind fuck, I guess, because when that's the thing that even if he wasn't straight, even if he was gay, I'm sure that the straight ones get most of the attention. I mean, the hot ones get probably most of the attention, but if you're straight and masculine in that sort of scenario, that is really what's rewarded and sort of chased. So, it's just funny that he didn't. I think he was probably used to dealing with femme. Yeah, he's used to dealing with femmes who like accept their identify as heterosexual because they are more in the mind of thinking of themselves as a woman and living in the life of as a woman, and so he probably thinks, wow, like a femme is up in here, she's really gonna want a straight guy.
I think he saw two fags and he was like, they're gonna love this, and then we were like, girl, not on today,
not honey. Today. Did you see his face though?
He was very confused. But you're
confused. You straight, but now you're confused.
We made the decision not to look back. We're like, we can't look back. We lose our dignity. We lose our dignity. So I just stood up and I gathered my dollars and I was like, yeah.
And what? You went over to the dancer that was voguing in the corner alone.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, we gotta keep going.
Yeah. No, we gotta take a break. We'll be right back. We'll talk more about the Lizzo stuff after this break. So I feel like we didn't. Okay, so I didn't give my take, and Pep didn't give her take about the Lizzo thing. Should I let you go first, Pep? As I'm giving our guest the mic, the floor.
Yeah, mine's complicated, but I'll try to speak fast. Listen, I think I'm all for victims being able to hear, making space for victims of sexual harassment. I remember when Trace Lysette so bravely came out and disclosed together with Van Barnes the allegations against Jeffrey Tambor on the set of Transparent. And we all know how that turned out. And I think that was a really difficult time for everyone involved, but certainly for Trace and Van, who were Trace was a co-star on the hit show, Amazon show Transparent, which was a groundbreaking show. And it was so precious for so many reasons. And so I can only imagine that if I was a star on that show or even featured on the show, having anything to do with that show, saying something against its main star, who, he was the biggest star on the show at the time and won an Emmy for his performance, kind of daring to possibly like damage the reputation of or sink that ship. It probably was not an easy thing. At least it wouldn't be easy for me, I think. I don't know. I don't know if it would be or not. But so I just think back to that. And I remember talking to her and how difficult it was. So it's important that we listen to this story. And I think it'll all come out in the wash. But what I have an issue, what I find interesting is the reaction of the fans and the people that are watching this all unfold. And we're obviously in the early stages of this. And, seeing, we don't have all the information. We probably won't until there's like some kind of legal proceedings or something like that. Yeah. And so, but it is interesting that there's people that are kind of, I don't want to say doing a takedown, but it's interesting to see the reactions of people. And it just it really, really personifies this whole like sort of like social media like frenzy that we all are constantly living in, where people are like criticizing Lizzo, which she's open to criticism. She's a public figure and she's the boss of these people in this situation. But Lizzo is, I think, in a bigger sense, aside the fact that Lizzo does often talk about like, you know, body positivity and all these different things, she's an ally to the queer community. And so some people might see this as a contradiction in her behavior, but I view Lizzo as a product, a byproduct of this system, this capitalist entertainment system that we're in, that really like aims to put up for sale and exploit the bodies of all these types of people: queer people, Black people, big people, disabled people, women, obviously women. And the entertainment industry will be the first to push out in front of an audience and sell the sexuality, and everything that they can, anything that they can, and t-shirts of these entertainers, and really not provide that much protection or space for these dancers. For Lizzo, I'm not saying Lizzo needed to be protected from the dancers. I'm just saying that like this situation, Lizzo's in a situation where she's essentially in some ways being exploited for, I'm not saying in the case of in this situation, but just in general in the entertainment industry, Lizzo and other women. And so people really want to buy into this whole system, and they want to buy the tape and buy this not the tape and the CD. They want to buy the music and buy the merch and follow the account of and look at every story of and then be the first to comment. And these people aren't really involved in this situation. They have no idea. You know, it's a shame that what they are commenting on is only Lizzo's alleged behavior, which deserves to be criticized, but not the circumstances that put these dancers and Lizzo in a situation that they could be, you know, vulnerable. And you know, when you're on tour, and like you said, when you were on tour, Monet, a lot of times when you're on tour, there isn't like an HR rep going around on the tour with you. It's you have to make these decisions in this snap decisions, whether it's right or wrong. And it feels like, hey, why not go out for some drinks? You know, Lizzo says and does all this stuff on stage, and it sounds like, based on the complaints, that this is sort of the kind of behavior that I'm not necessarily shocked when it comes to like the banana and like sort of all that stuff. I don't know about the threats or the things that she said to these people, but it's so messy, and it's unfortunate that what we're going to do is potentially that the only thing that would be changed in this situation is only Lizzo's alleged behavior, but not the system that puts these people. Lizzo is a worker. She's not like a billion-dollar CEO. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know. I'm
you're
getting ready to go into something else.
The system that allows Lizzo to be famous and popular, like we should be blaming that system, like how she was able to have success for.
It's not her fame and popularity. It's what she's encouraged to do, just in general. I'm saying we have no problem with, like, if that was on a reality show, we would be Lizzo, suck that banana and threaten them dancers. That's right. Like we really celebrate this sort of behavior. I'm not saying that Lizzo is behaving in a wild way. I'm saying that the entertainment industry, the music industry, some people who have experience in it describe it as sort of the wild, wild west. Not just, you know, which means the entire thing. It's the exploitation of these artists that put them out there on the road. Artists, the dancers, the main singer, the musicians, and all this other talent, put them out there on the road. And they are in a situation where that's where they're going to earn their money, is on the road, because they're not earning it from the record sales. Lizzo, you know what I mean?
Screaming, fuck this all.
Yeah, and it's about to do it again. Anyway, I could go down a million places. I do. Obviously, we need to wait and see what happens. I think it's all going to come out in the wash. It's a tricky situation, because until there's a complaint, nobody's saying anything. Do you know what I mean? Until there's a complaint, it's all gravy. You know, it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt.
Gravy.
It's all shits and giggles. Someone giggles and shits. You know, I think that. Have you ever heard that question?
I've heard shits and giggles. I've never heard someone giggling. And then
it's all shits and giggles to someone giggles and
Bob
shits.
often giggles and shits on this podcast live.
Ew.
Yeah, incontinence is the problem that some people have, and
I love you for it.
Yeah,
What do you think, Bob? I'm curious.
A little giggle, a little shit, no big deal. I think that okay. There's a lot of things. First of all, I'm really intrigued by the notion that like a lot of people's takeaway from this is like, I knew I never liked that fucking fat bitch anyway. I mean, the way out of the
That's what I'm saying.
gate,
This reaction.
out of the gate, it was like accusations of the fuck that fat bitch. I never like. I knew.
Yeah.
It was something in my spirit told me as soon as that fat bitch got on my TV, it was something about her I didn't like, and I'm glad I knew.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that what the dancer's saying is probably not 100% false, but I think it's probably also not 100% because there are moments where you hear them say things like I had a feeling like the guy would be like, so did Lizzo like fat shame you? And then she'll be like, I just had a feeling that they were not happy with the way that I was gaining weight. I just had a feeling. And I was like, well, you can't prove feelings in court.
Yeah, feelings aren't
You can't
facts.
prove that that's how they felt. Even if they showed really strong, you can't prove how people feel.
Judge Judy's so good at that. She's like, no. Don't tell me how he felt. You can't prove it. You cannot prove that.
Which, by the way, Judge Judy is still the highest paid person in reality television to this very day.
She came back again.
Yeah, she got a new show. Yeah,
she's wild. Anyway, continue.
And I think that if anyone makes allegations, you should take the allegations seriously, and you should seriously investigate them. And when I say seriously investigate them, I don't mean us as citizens. I mean paid lawyers.
Hello.
I mean lawyers and investigators, people who are not just random, podcasters and hairstylists and even other dancers. You know what I mean? Of course, you can look into it. Feel free, but I don't think we're close enough to the source material to say whether or not these things happened or did not happen.
But it seems like what's going to be the deciding factor. It seems like we put more weight in the court of public opinion than we do in what like we are going to figure out as a community and as people who follow Lizzo and follow her career. We're going to make that decision real soon on whether or not she does another tour, whether or not she has another thing. Her gigs are already getting canceled, and they haven't even gone to court yet.
This is like with Jonathan Majors. With Jonathan Majors, he's literally in court now. As soon as it came out that he may have hit someone, he lost like 8 different brand deals. Like there was nothing proven. Like he lost so much already, and now he's in court now.
That's what I meant to say. Is the capitalism of it all. Just we can liken it to the LGBTQ community and what we saw the corporations, Bud Light, the Targets, stepping back from the community. They're all up in your face. Nobody had nothing to say. And then the minute something might seem a little bit off and not, I'm not saying any of these Bud Light or Dylan Mulvaney did anything off. I'm saying that like the minute there's a little bit of friction, they're out. We're out. Peace out. No backing, no support, not even like, like real kind of floundery. And we are in a situation, we're in a system, we're in a country, a world, a system, whatever you want to say, that allows that sort of behavior from these corporations to put people out there, parade them. This is who we have on their can. This is who's out on tour. Oh, you like big girls? Well, we got it. We got the tour. We have the music. We got this TV series of the big girls. What you want, big girl? What you want, big girl? We're gonna sell it to you. And the minute something happens, and you like big girls wilding out? You want dancer big girls wilding out? Here's the TV show. Oh shoot, somebody, and then suddenly it's what Bob was saying. I hated that bitch, and I just think that is busted. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal. Go.
You're right. That is the my thesis essentially. And I think that is a little bit, not a little bit, I think that it's quite problematic. And the issue is like, I can't remember the band. There was some band that was like getting a lot of popularity. And
Power Bottom.
Yes. Now I want to be clear. They were called Power Bottom. Yes. I do not know all the details. I'm going to say out loud right now. I do not know all the details on the Power Bottom story, but someone from Power Bottom was accused of allegations. And then later on, I believe the person was like, that's not quite what happened. It's not quite how I said it. But by that time, Power Bottom had lost, everything, even their music, I think, was pulled from Spotify.
Oh. Wait, so this is recently?
Like This was quite recent.
I didn't even heard of the Power Bottoms. I don't even know who that is.
Power Bottoms.
This was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, they were a queer band, and they were like getting a lot of
Well, what was the allegation? Was it a sexual allegation?
It was they were sexual allegations.
Against who? Like a member or just somebody?
A member of Power Bottom, yes. And
It was a duo. It was two people, and one of them had allegations.
Got it.
One of
them had an allegation against the other person in the group?
No, against that person. Someone who was not in the band had allegations against...
A fan of the band put out allegations against one of the members.
And by the time it had all settled, out of court, I believe... And again, I know y'all gonna say Bob and Monet never know all the details. You're right. We don't know all the details about everything before we talk. You got me. You got me. Hands up. But by the time all the dust had cleared, the damage was done, and Power Bottom is no more.
Well, and then that's an interesting thing you say, because I saw another point of view. This other lawyer was saying, she's noticing a pattern as a lawyer, saying that there are oftentimes allegations, like lawyers will pick up certain cases from a disgruntled fan or an old employee, because they know that if they bring this case to the court of public opinion, they are like, the artist is more afraid of how that's going to affect their career. So they will most likely settle. And so they like kind of guaranteed this. And again, I'm not saying all lawyers do this. The lawyer just saying that she's noticing a pattern that artists will sometimes like, they're so afraid to be canceled and have their entire career impacted that they will settle out of court, which oftentimes to us as the public looks as guilty. When you hear, oh, they settled out of court, you're like, oh, they were guilty, so they settled. So they'll pay that $5 million or whatever it is, so it just go away, so they don't get like a guilty or whatever, or it doesn't go through litigation, so that they can move on. And sometimes lawyers know that artists will do this, so they bring these cases. And again, y'all, I'm not saying this is what these people are doing with Lizzo. This is what this lawyer was noticing, a pattern in certain cases coming forward, and lawyers picking them up to kind of just get money quick.
There's a reason why lawyers do not have a great reputation in the world. Like there's a reason why lawyers are not considered. I mean, I think there are three professions in the world that kind of have a big stain on them: used car sellers, politicians, and lawyers. Yeah. And if you're in one of these categories, people are like, I am just positive that you were either lying to me or trying to manipulate me in some way. If I'm working with you in a professional capacity.
Yeah. When it comes to these corporations, and when we talk about, like, we think about like all the millions of songs and lots of music and lots of pieces of media and lots of artists, but really when it comes down to it, in the music industry is really controlled by just a handful of human beings at the very, 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 very top end of the day. Just like all of the corporations that we have the opportunity to buy all this stuff or listen to all these streaming platforms and all this stuff. It all goes, a lot of it gets funneled literally to the same few people. Like the higher up you go, the less people there are. And so I guess I want to clarify, kind of just based on what you had just said, Monet, is that like, it seems as though everyone is very reactionary, and it is important that people's reactions reflect sort of their own values, I think. But it seems as though folks are more reactionary only to avoid a cancellation moment rather than to really, really avoid the harm and irreparable effects of somebody. Like they would rather avoid the cancellation. Sometimes those two things match up. Sometimes those two things don't. And the cancellation moves, moment of cancellation moves much quicker.
So fast.
And people aren't like really saying,
because the court of public opinion doesn't need proof or facts or anything. It just needs sensationalism.
Yeah, that's all it needs. And and to be an artist who spent so much time, right, building your career for years, decades, whatever it is, to know that it can all go away because of an allegation that like is not true. You're like, well, this is like, I didn't do this. This is not true. And within like a 48-hour news cycle, bitch, you're done. Your next tour, no one's buying tickets. Like it's like a scary place to be in. So I can see how an artist would just settle and just like, I just want to get this over with and just pay the money so it can go away so I can move on with my life. I can see how that can be a thing.
The court of public opinion, settling is an admission of guilt.
Is guilty, right?
This reminds me of the oh my god! If this were a Black Mirror episode, the one are y'all Black Mirror fans like me?
I've seen a couple.
No, but I've watched
the pig one,
all of it. I've watched the pig one and I stopped watching it.
I'm not a fan, but I've watched every episode. You're like, I'm not. I've watched every second of every episode. But I'm not a fan.
Ho. I watched the first episode which I think the pig one was episode 1, season 1. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and then when did that come out? In 2017, 18, something like that. 18, 19, maybe, whatever.
Yeah, pre-Ponder Replay. Yeah.
I never. I stopped. I was like so mortified. And I was like, I feel violated. I can't watch this. So I didn't watch it. And then in the light of the strike, the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strike, I decided to watch this show that I was talking about, a Black Mirror episode, Joan is Awful. So I watched that, which no spoilers, but it was last season. Those of you who didn't watch, it's basically about.
No, it's this current.
Is this
the most recent
happening right now?
6 seasons.
It's the most
Okay, but
recent
it's
season.
all out now. Is I guess my point.
Yeah.
And
like 2 months ago. It didn't come out that long. It came out like 2 months
really?
ago.
Oh, it felt like well, this is my confusion because I watched it, and then like Netflix.
Anyway, spoiler alert! You all know what. If you haven't seen it yet, you have time to log off because Pep's going to talk about her opinions on Joan is Awful, which is from the most recent season.
No, I'm not.
If you, you could. I think once you give a spoiler alert, you can say anything.
Spoiler,
in my opinion.
fine. I said no spoiler, didn't I? Whatever. I don't know what I said.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
I won't. I don't need to tell it, but it lines up closely with what we're talking about. With this
I don't know what's going on.
Anyway, I watched it. I ended up accidentally watching it. I watched that episode, and then I was like, "Ooh, this is good. Are there more episodes like this?" And I watched the whole season, and I was working with my hands and doing some hair stuff. And then before you know it, Netflix was like, "Oh, you like that? Let's go back and watch all of them." And so, like, I ended up accidentally watching, and I couldn't tell where the 6th season was or not. It wasn't a clear marker.
Yeah.
And so I just
hate when
kept
you
watching
accidentally watch 4 seasons of a show. Don't you hate when you sit down and you accidentally watch 4 seasons?
I meant to boycott it because of the pig, but I watched the whole season.
Accidentally watch 18 hours of television.
So you were saying
what does that have to do with Black Mirror? Oh.
Yeah.
So there's an episode of Black Mirror where
Miley Cyrus.
there are these bees that just are like attacking people, like
I didn't see that
people.
episode.
So there are these bees that attack very specific people, but they found out that with the bees were these mechanical bees that were connected to the algorithm. So whoever is the most hated person on the internet gets killed by the bees.
Wait, I want to watch it.
Dragging Beyonce.
I gave spoiler alerts, and then you asked me.
What do I do, bitch? I'm in the thing. What am I gonna do? Just.
Well, you asked me to tell you. You
it's
said,
still
tell
interesting,
me how does this
bitch.
relate?
Every single Black Mirror episode you've watched, somebody said you got to watch the gay episode, the lesbian episode where this happened, and you have to. Is that Black Mirror?
Yeah, and the thing. Oh no, that's the herbal zombie movie.
Herbal. No, Black Mirror has a really famous lesbian episode.
No,
and they have a gay one too.
it's not the gay. It's not the gay male episode. It's a lesbian episode.
Oh my god! Also,
herbal zombie was a great. Herbal zombie was a great.
No, I don't like herbal zombies. I don't like herbal zombies.
I ate with herbal zombies.
I don't like herbal zombies. No, show was tired. Except for that episode.
What happens is the bees use the algorithm. Anyway, Lizzo would be stung to death. that was my whole thesis. But now that I got that out of the way, I want to talk directly to Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy. Everyone tag Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy because I want to say this.
Hold on, Bob. I don't think that's a good idea.
You know what I'm going to say? Let me say it first. Shonda Rhimes, Ryan Murphy, we are not done hearing trans stories. Pose wasn't enough. I was so happy to see Peppermint on my screen for Pose. It was Peppermint and the lady who was on your episode. What was her name?
Oh, the cleaner.
These two need a whole show.
I'm into that.
This was one of the best it was the best episode of the show. It was hands down, and not just because Pepper's one of my best friends. This is total side note. This was the best episode of Pose, and I'm proposing that we get those two after the strike to have a spinoff where they are the main characters. Thank you for my TED Talk.
Oh, I was so confused. I thought we were still on Black Mirror.
Well, we were talking about TV. We've jumped. We've moved.
I think we need to move on from TV. I don't think we can use a lot of this.
I mean, I'm not scabbing. I'm not saying go watch. Listen, me, Pep, and Monet are all union strong. We are down there. We're not me, Pep, and Monet. We're not doing films. We're not writing. We are all quite union strong.
Which, by the way, can you see Jinx?
Also, you're allowed to review. Also, SAG allows you to review shows. By the way, if you're a content creator who reviews TV, even if it's SAG content, you can still review it.
Jinx
You're allowed
and
to do
Dayla want to be us so bad. Did you see them? They were at the same place we were protesting, and they were protesting just like it. They want to be us so bad. They want to be us so bad at the Paramount Studios in Hollywood.
By the way, if you're gonna strike, the best place to strike, just for like your own vibe, is Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is a much better. First of all, the walk is when you strike at Paramount, it's a really small. You're like loopy. You get dizzy, baby. That Warner Brothers strike, you walk about, I would say, a quarter mile.
You get your steps in.
It's one direction.
Netflix and Sunset and Bronson, I think that Netflix one is long too. You can look that is a trek.
Also, for the first time ever, when you're driving, this is so Hollywood. When you're driving, I don't even know what the street is. I think it's toward Burbank, past Warner Brothers. There's this huge ad wall, but the ad wall is empty right now. Are they like with the union? Are they with us? Are they like
no? You can do commercial. You can do commercials.
But this wall, I've never seen this wall empty. It was kind of gaggy when I was marching. I was like, oh, that wall, I've never seen that wall.
Well, it depends on. I guess it depends on who's in control of the ad wall.
Yeah. You know, they're probably not. I don't think that if you're selling ad space, you're probably not in these streets being like, I'm.
You know, I had a thought to go strike in full drag. I literally thought about it for literally 0.2 seconds. I was like, absolutely not. Also, there's no. I'm not helping our cause by going out and drag.
No, it doesn't. That's just like that's sensational.
You might help. You might help if it brings eyes. Like if you go down to the strike, I don't know how strikes are in LA. The strikes are like the people out there. They're like listening to music. Some of them are dressed wild. In my opinion, if it brings attention to the strike, then it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I saw like Monet saw Instathought shirtless. You remember that, Monet? That guy who was like shirtless, like posing.
Oh yeah.
And then he put his shirt back on and started walking again.
Yeah.
If it brings attention to the strike, then I think that the strike is very serious.
Okay,
I think people are very serious about one of these wages.
I wish I'd sent this to you all to watch, but did you hear? Could get murky here. Did you hear about, speaking of the strike and speaking about unionizing? Did you hear about Housewives Bethany Frankel bringing suit on behalf of unscripted reality performers and talent on reality shows, and in conjunction with, I'm not sure if y'all watched Netflix shows Love is Blind and The Ultimatum, but there's performers from that show who basically are beginning to organize, and they created a UCAN unscripted whatever. It's like having to do with unscripted and reality talent, people that have appeared on reality TV. And right now they're in this like sort of story collecting phase where they're talking to all of the artists and all the people who've appeared on the various shows about their experiences. And so many of these people's experiences all align. I don't care what show you've been on. A lot of us have the same types of stories and experiences. You're hearing a common thread. And so I can send you the video. It is wild. There's the
Unscripted Cast Advocacy Network.
Yeah. And they obviously are, this is the beginning of organization and them unionizing. And it is, it is the allegations that they're bringing against the producers of
Love is Blind
are wild. He tells us one story, and it lines up. If you watched a series, he tells us one story about how his fiance, the person that he proposed to, was like sick and heaving and throwing up, and they thought she could have had COVID because they filmed it during the pandemic. And the producers said, we have to test you and we can't film you for 24 hours. So like they couldn't film her. She had to be out of the filming. They were having a gathering. And that night, it was a coincidence. They were having a gathering. They were doing something, and she missed it because she was sick. And so her partner, her fiance, went to the gathering, and then, said, oh, she's sick, she can't come. And then they stopped him and said, go back into that room. She's sick. We can't film her, wink, wink. But if you go and bring her and sit her by the window, by the bed, and then lean in because you have a microphone, then we can capture her. And he didn't know that she had been sick and she had a panic attack while he was at the party. So then they brought her in and said, just talk to her about the party. And he is supposed to be her husband. And he was like ignoring all the stuff that she said about a panic attack because she didn't know that she had that. Meanwhile, talking to her about the party. And he finally put 2 and 2 together and was like, took off the mic and was like, I'm done. We're not filming. But he it shows that the incentive to talk about this scripted, unscripted moment being prioritized over the health and safety of someone. Not to mention, they said, we tested you, but we have to wait 24 hours because you still could have COVID. So why are you sending somebody in there that is not sick, but could get COVID by sending them in there? It just feels like unscrupulous,
If you want to listen to a one of my favorite podcasts I've ever listened to is called Harsh Reality. It is Trace Lysette is the host of this podcast. And there was a reality TV show years ago called There's Something About Miriam. Mm-hmm. And There's Something About Miriam was a gotcha style dating show where you have
it's like The Bachelor.
It's like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, basically, except in the end they go, gotcha, Miriam is trans. And they did not use the words Miriam is trans. They essentially had her say, I'm a man. They essentially had her, I can't remember. They say I'm not. They either had her say I'm not a real woman or I'm a man or something like that. Which I don't know if Miriam chose those words herself. Miriam is no longer with us to discuss that. Not obviously. Some of y'all don't even know about this. But what I'm saying is, it is about a gotcha style reality TV show where they get a bunch of cis men to date a trans woman. Straight cis men to date a trans woman without disclosing that she's trans until the very last person, and the wild social ramifications that have come into play after. It's a great listen. It's not too many episodes. It's one of the most. I think there are 6 episodes. I lied. There are
Harsh Reality. This was 8.
Yeah, Harsh Reality.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's something about Miriam. I don't even remember that being in my.
Yeah, it came out in the early 2000s. They did the same thing. It was obviously after The Bachelor had become wildly popular, and they did the same thing. Right. There was an American version on Logo with Calpurnia Adams. I can't remember what it was called. It was the same exact thing where these guys had to vie for. It was The Bachelorette, basically, vie for her attention, take her on dates. She chose a couple people, and then. Then she chose the person, and they were offered either at the very last moment when they proposed to her, before she could say yes, she had to say something like she had to come out. I don't remember exactly how the rules worked, but she'd come out, or they could take the money. You could take the money, and that means you're telling me no because you don't like trans women, or if you get with the trans woman, you have to leave the money. It's that much of a choice. But they didn't know that she was trans the whole time. And then at the end she did. And I believe, but that show, one of the guys committed suicide because he was on a TV show. He'd already signed. Of course, they get you to sign everything away, not knowing, you know what I mean? And so, it was just obviously really upsetting. And the 2 shows that had a dating style situation where a trans woman was at the center and the star of them, ended up having death and murder involved. And, because they tricked these guys into watching the show. I'm not saying that the trans women tricked them. The trans women were not the producers of the show. Production. The show. That was the entire premise, to keep it a secret, right? Yeah. And it was a different time. And that's obviously something that we would never do today. I think it was something that was not really a good idea. Clearly not good idea to do then. But it just goes to show you that the producers of these TV shows will oftentimes prioritize getting the story on camera rather than regardless of what happens, we'll take care of it at the end. And they do hire a psychologist that allegedly to have one that you can talk to afterwards if you're having a problem. But so many people have committed suicide after these reality, and harm themselves after these appearances on reality TV because they've been tricked into it. And the conditions that you're in, you don't have community, you don't have access to a phone. A lot of the times you're sequestered. They don't feed you on a normal schedule because you're working 16 hours because you're not union, even though the crew is. They don't give you access to water. They'll give you access to alcohol.
That's the crazy thing to me, that I'm happy that this UCAN, that unscripted is starting to get together and unionize. But that's always been crazy to me.
Would have been nice 8 years ago.
I know. Crazy to me how how the entire crew, everyone is union except the players who are being captured on film. Like, I feel like hopefully a clause that will be part of this union is once you sign on to do a reality show that is union, you automatically are put into the union because you are not part of this ecosystem.
Yeah, we all need to be unionized. And honestly, so do the CEOs. Someone needs to make sure these CEOs are protected. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm kidding. That was a bit. That was a.
It wasn't.
Bit.
It wasn't, y'all. That was a Freudian slip. That's what Bob really think. Y'all saw a peek into the real Bob, the fucking drag queen. Okay.
Yeah. Bob the drag queen, the 1%. But what I'm also trying to say too is me and Peppermint were right after I listened to Harsh Reality, I always call Pep with a harebrained scheme. If either Pep or Monet is gonna get a call and be like, "I got my next big plan."
I had to. It was like this, like Monet. I had this idea. Hear me out.
Pep, listen, hear me out. And I really want to see the dating show where it is a black trans woman. It's disclosed up front, and it is a bunch of men vying for her love, and they know she's trans. That's the reality show I want to see, where it's not like, gotcha. It's just like, she's trans. And me and Pep were talking about, I don't know if the term trans attracted or trans amorous is kosher right now. I don't know which term people are using. But I mean, I think it's interesting to see love for trans people and affection and desire.
I would agree.
I mean, I'm someone who's attracted to trans people and I mean, as Pep put it, I have a little space at the table for everyone.
Well, Pep, I have a question. If there was because for some reason of all these fucking reality shows like Bachelorette, Love Island, all these things, the ones that seem to stand the test of time, because I follow a lot of them and they're still married, they're still thing. Love is Blind. These people seem to really be finding love in the show. All the other ones, it seems like people are just out here to try to get famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love is Blind.
Although there are some people from Love is Blind that Netflix did have a show. It's really interesting to see sort of them after the show at the reunions and all these things. I agree. Mm-hmm. I don't love a lot of dating reality shows, but there's two that I there's three that I can. Okay, there's four. I like.
Okay, there's 12. Okay, there's 18. Okay, I mean, every one of them.
To be
except
fair,
one.
There's like 70 that you can choose from.
Yeah.
In order, my favorites are Are You the One, which is old school, which they Are You the One, The Ultimatum, Love is Blind, and there's one more. When I don't get those three, a distant fourth is Too Hot to Handle. And the reason why I like those shows is because they, in their own way, incentivize the cultivating an actual connection with people. Yeah.
Are you two insinuating that Shot at Love with Tila Tequila is not?
I was just talking about that show.
That harbors, there's a new Tila Tequila out there. There's a new bisexual dating show on the scene right now, which is so funny. I'm like, girl, it's 2023.
What's it called?
We got, I can't remember. It's like this woman. She's like, you'd think being bisexual, I'd have all the dating options.
I never heard of it.
But you would.
How
I can't remember the name of it, but I was like y'all, bisexual, it's 2023. Show. Like, are we still in these streets acting like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see
Bi-curious dating.
I would love to see,
it's called Love Always.
There it is.
I would love to see a queer trans Love is Blind. I would personally fucking love that. I mean, I know.
Yeah, let's get it. They did do an Are You the One? Do you all know Are You the One?
I've never seen that. Is that on Netflix too?
It's an MTV reality dating show, and apparently they were probably really in their heyday, like early 2010, probably 2013, 14, 15. They took a break and then they came back during the pandemic with a Queer Are You the One? That was season 8. And then they came, and then they continued. And basically, it's they get a bunch of people together. They go through and they do matchmaking. So they get everybody's profile and they match make everyone. They match people up according to their likes and preferences and all those things by a professional matchmaker. And then they scramble them up. Nobody knows who their match is. They scramble them up and dump them on an island and say, find your match. And if you
why the island?
At the
Can
end,
I be in a hotel?
I know. At the end of the,
why is always got to be in the sun?
I don't know. I don't know.
We took these loves and put them in a volcano.
Because they need an excuse. They need an excuse to have people in bathing suits while you're waiting to figure out who's going to win.
Yeah, Bob, because other people like to be luxuriating in the sand and the beach. You're the only one that don't like the beach and the sand. Everybody else here likes the beach and the sand.
Yeah, I'm like, they're anyway, like, we took 5 hot locals and threw them in the middle of the Mojave Desert. It's
they
like,
keep going, but I guess it's the only conditions that you can have people practically naked the whole time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You're right. You're not wrong.
That's it. It'd be funny to have them in bathing suits, but in like Antarctica. You know what I mean? Like
in New York City in February.
Find love. You're not focused on love. Anyway, but that
is the challenge. They hang out in the bathing suit on 23rd and 9th for 5 hours.
They incentivize finding your match. And if you match with the wrong person, the entire group loses money. There's $1 million that the group, no one gets eliminated. All you have to do, it's $1 million and all 10 people split it, but only if you're matched with your pre-assigned partner. And people get connections with the people. They fall into their old ways. They have a type that they're looking for. They have a list, and so like a lot of times they make the wrong choices. And their match is somebody else that maybe would be a good idea for them or whatever. But they have to find that person. And every single time that they get asked, is this your match? And if they bring up the wrong person, then they lose money. It's a good one.
We do have to wrap up soon. With if we're out here
who's that?
Recommending reality shows. The one that was it is a real mind fuck of a show. It's called LOL, Last One Laughing. They have one for Canada, one for Australia, one for Mexico. They put comedians in a room and you're not allowed to laugh. You're not allowed to laugh.
But do you have to do things?
I mean, the comedians are trying to get each other to laugh. And the one for Canada is, by the end, you feel so crazy just watching.
And they're dating?
There's no dating. It's just and they're in a volcano. We've taken 15 comedians, throw them into bikinis, put them in.
Maybe I'm like having maybe my brain's crazy today. I just feel like we're talking about so many different topics. I don't understand.
And that's why Lizzo should be in prison. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right. Thank you all for listening to our podcast today.
Bye.
Yes, Pam. You looking good, bitch.
Bitch, you looking good.
And I guess I'm just sitting here, huh? Okay. God damn. God damn. Jesus Christ.